Today's episode is sponsored by Calypso Cigar Shop and Lounge in Richardson, Texas, one of Dallas-Fort Worth's premier cigar lounges. If you haven't been there yet, go check it out. Off of I-75 and Arapahoe, it has one of the largest humidors in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, filled with some of the best cigars on the planet. They also have a beautiful lounge you can sit at and enjoy your cigar. So go visit Matt and the crew at Calypso Cigar Shop and Lounge, located at 1002 North Central Expressway, Suite 589 in Richardson, Texas. And hey, if you're not in the area, give them a call at 972-761-9903. That number again, 972-761-9903.
Hi, this is Randy Rankin with Cigars and Cinema and Christoph Cigars. I'm sure you all have had a Christoph cigar, and if you haven't, you really need to try them. Our Corojo Limitado was number 13 in Cigar Aficionado, and our current Pissed Off Christoph is off the charts. Plus, we just won the Best Value Dominican Cigar with our Ligero Maduro. We've got everything from mild to medium to full body. So be sure and ask for Christoph Cigars at your local B&M.
Love to Hate, the podcast that asks the question, what do you love to hate?
You are a smelly pirate hooker. And I hate your ass face!
Do you love it?
No!
Do you hate it?
Oh, yeah. Yes! You stupid, ignorant son of a bitch, dumb bastard! I'm charting your general direction!
No more foreplay.
Hey kids, it's Monday. Welcome to another edition of Love to Hate. I'm Nick Phillips.
And I'm Brandon Luna. You said you were going to do it.
I did. What about huzzah? You're not going to do that anymore? Or is that...
I said huzzah already, and I did yay, and...
you created one.
Yeah, flippity ski.
Yeah.
What do I go back to?
I have no idea.
Whoopee!
Whoopee, yes.
All right.
When all else fails, whoopee.
There's got to be other ones. I'll come up with some stuff.
I trust that you will. So what are we going to talk about today, Brandon?
Oh, today we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to most people's hearts now.
What is that?
Binge watching.
Binge watching.
Yeah, where you get a TV show and you just watch the whole thing. Because now, cable's not so big anymore. I mean, a lot of people are cutting the cord and just doing their own thing on Netflix and Amazon Prime and whatnot and Hulu. So people do this new thing now where they just watch the whole show.
Like binge eating or binging on anything else.
Yeah, binging in general, yeah.
And you can do that. Actually, you could probably do that in your DVR. Just save up all the episodes.
You can. I
mean,
I could say I've done it in the past with shows that I either didn't start right when they started or needed to catch up on, but it was via DVD back then. You would buy the season or rent the season, and then you'd watch, 2 or 3 seasons to catch up and then start watching the new season.
That's what I did with Breaking Bad.
Is it? Yeah,
I think it was on Netflix at the time. It may still be, but I caught up just till the very end. Watched the last 5 episodes. In real time.
Gotcha.
Kind of like 24.
Right.
It's occurred in real time.
Yeah, 24 is definitely one you need to binge watch.
That's one I've gone back with my kid, and we are on season 3 now.
Nice.
But the problem with binge watching some shows, 24 for example, not written to be binge watched. Mm-hmm. So you start to see these problems with characters or these things that start to become annoyances.
Right.
With the character as you binge watch some of these shows.
Yeah.
In 24, it's Kim Bauer.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Maybe one of the dumbest characters ever written.
The mountain lion thing was just
ridiculous. It's just one thing. Somebody online called her just Kim McGuffin because it's always just this.
Right.
It's like this has nothing to do with it. And if you watch, what's funny is if you watch the first season, everything's her fault pretty much.
Yeah.
She's the catalyst, and then her mom's like, "It's okay, honey, it's not your fault." And her dad's like, "It's like, no, you pretty much got your mom killed." Is pretty much. But if you watch it on a weekly basis, not such a big deal.
You kind of forgive the character in a week, and then you come back, and then you kind of go, "Oh, she's stupid."
But yeah, when you're just one after the other after the other.
Also, I think you tend to notice, like I know more with sitcoms because I think you're a little more forgiving of sitcoms. But if you binge watch something like Friends, those characters change. They flip 180 sometimes on you as the seasons progress, and they change the story too. Like they had it in the beginning. For example, first episode of Friends, Rachel comes in. She wasn't, Monica wasn't invited to her wedding. This is this friend from high school that she'd forgotten about. As the show progresses, they show old video footage of when they went to prom together and they were besties. It's like So how was Monica not invited to her wedding?
Yeah, they start to change it, and they know, okay, it's been enough years.
Yeah.
We'll kind of retcon
exactly
the backstory.
Yeah. Same thing with Phoebe's characters changed a ton. All of a sudden she has this sister because the character that she played on Mad About You was popular, so they incorporated those two things and made her have a twin sister, which she never talked about the first couple of seasons. So, just stuff like that.
Ursula?
Yeah.
That's because I watched Mad About You. I didn't watch Friends, but I did watch Mad About You.
But they do that. They take characters. Big Bang Theory is another example. If you watch Big Bang Theory from the first season, what's his name? Sheldon's character is so off the rails, like OCD and crazy. As the show progresses, he does things that you're like, oh, he would never do that as a character. Is
it supposed to show growth, or do you think it's just forgetting where the character comes from?
I think it's both. If it's showing growth, they would mention it. They would say, oh, well, this is unlike Sheldon or something, or, well, he's changing or whatever. But they don't. They just kind of do whatever, So I think it's kind of lazy writing in some places, and maybe there's a change of writers and they forget what they've done in the past, or who knows,
possible.
I think it's harder to have continuity in a series than it is in a movie. In a movie, you've got someone there on the set. They know what they shot the day before. You're working on it for 3 months and you're done. With the TV show, you've got years of continuity that you have to deal with.
Well, you have, because you have, in the way some shows are written now, you have series arc and episode arc, where it's, okay, we're going to resolve this right now in this episode, but then we've got this other arc that's going throughout the entire season, maybe, or throughout the entire series that we're waiting to resolve. I think one of the reasons some of those things don't hold up, or that we notice them, these shows were not written to be watched that way. They weren't designed for that.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Marvel stuff that they're doing on Netflix, or I guess any of the Netflix originals or Hulu originals,
Amazon, whatever,
yeah, they're written to be told in a row.
Correct, yeah.
So you don't have those gaps
right.
where it's, wait, this isn't consistent, because they're just telling one whole story and then dividing it up.
So we have another podcast that Randy and I started up called Kiefer for Prez, which is about Designated Survivor.
Good show.
Yeah. So one of the things we mentioned about the first episode was I thought that they packed just way too much into the first episode of that show. It was like they could have saved a couple of these little plot points for episode 3, episode 4,
Such
episode
as?
5. The whole military guy turned, we got to take him out, turn him against him and stuff. I thought they could have waited on that. I thought there was a couple other things they could have waited on. But I think it's, and Randy made a good point, because it's network television and not Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, you have to capture the audience in that first episode to get them to come back in a week.
True.
So with something like Jessica Jones, you've got a slow burn that. I mean, you've got a story that you're going to tell. Point
maybe
A.
not quite as slow a burn as Jessica Jones.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
with Luke Cage and Daredevil, you can take the time
and the
to tell
audience
that
is built
story.
in because they've started it knowing we're going to be watching this
Yeah.
for 13 episodes, whereas with that, it's, okay, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah, and they know that people have access to all 13 episodes day one. So you can literally watch A to Z and be done with it. And they can take the time to kind of place those little story arc things as they go, and you'll still be aware of it because you're watching it 24/7, So versus something like Designated Survivor, where every week you've got to catch up, which is why they have that little thing at the beginning, like last week on Designated Survivor or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a different mindset to, I think, how you write those shows that are on Netflix and Amazon and Hulu versus how you write a show on ABC or NBC.
Well, yeah, and for one reason, you're writing to the commercial.
Exactly.
You've got to build the arc up to the commercial break,
and
then make sure they come back after the commercial.
And that
so
always
there is that.
That's another thing that annoys me about 24 when you watch it as a binge watching show is that it's so up and down. It's like they go to a commercial break and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, and then the commercial's back and they diffuse the situation.
It is a suspenseful show.
Yeah.
Because just when you think you're done, it's like, oh, okay, how are they going to fill out the next 7 episodes? They just resolved all of this. Then you realize there's another twist. They were always really good about that.
Yeah.
Some of the later seasons not as strong.
Yeah.
But they always had that ability to all of a sudden do that O. Henry type thing where it's like, and you didn't see this, did you? Like, holy crap, no, I didn't.
Yeah. One of my annoyances with that, especially the season when he was addicted to drugs, was like, okay,
I think that's season 3.
Season 3, it's if you watch it over the season as you're supposed to watch it, you don't really notice the whole drug addiction thing going away in one day. Versus if you watch that season as a binge watching thing, it's like, okay, so he's going through withdrawals, but now like episode 3 or 4, he's completely fine and everything's great. He doesn't have to deal with any of that. Like, no, that's not how that works. He'd be at the hospital or something, It just
no, he would. You're right. He would still be.
They just let the issue go.
Is that a testament to the strength of Jack Bauer? Just how good he is.
It could be, but it's also a testament to the writers going, "Oh, people will forget about this by episode 5.
Probably, yeah.
We'll just switch up the gears and make it old Jack again." So
that makes sense.
I
could see that. So again, not really one of the things that falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
When you binge watch it, I've been watching. Whatever reason, I've been watching all the old shows they post on Hulu. Like, hey, I haven't seen that since I was a kid. So I've been watching Hill Street Blues, which really I forgot how good a show. Well, when I was a kid, I didn't really pick up on a lot of the nuances. But now I can see really what a strong show it was, the strength of writing.
Right.
But very clearly not designed for me to just sit down and watch a bunch of episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Because then it starts to fall apart and you're kind of like, wow, now this guy's annoying. If I had a week in between, it wouldn't be so annoying.
Right.
Or you can see where it's, again, the MacGuffin that they throw into every episode designed to just cause trouble for the sake of just causing the character trouble.
Exactly, yeah.
So not really designed for that. The thing I tried to find it on Google and I couldn't. They changed the theme song slightly between season 1 and 2. 2 is a little more upbeat.
Yeah.
Season 1, the same theme song, just a little more down.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that changed. But I haven't found anything about it because it sounds pretty much the same.
Right.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of pick up on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it may have been, it seemed like it was kind of it's a cop comedy, but it's not. It's a dramedy.
It's got a lot of dark.
It does.
Dark
and I think maybe
it
it was a little too dark and they wanted to lighten it up and make
Apparently
it a little more
in the
sitcom-y.
80s, dating minors was not as big a deal.
Right.
Because they had the sergeant, Michael Conrad, going out with a girl who was a senior in high school.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that anymore.
It's one of those things it's more socially acceptable in art than I think in life. How many songs can you name that are about underage girls? Christine's 16, she's only 17. There's a crap ton of them. All these rock and roll
Young
guys,
blood.
Yes, sleeping with underage chicks, and it's okay, So
because it's music, and we're not endorsing it, but we're just making it into a song.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that makes sense. If you looked at what's on Hulu, they've pulled out all this stuff from the 70s, 80s, Rockford Files, which is great, but they put on the Ving Rhames remake of Kojak, which I think lasted like 4 seasons, or 4 episodes.
Right.
But they've got some British stuff on there too, so I found some cool British shows. Did you ever watch Spaced?
Oh yeah, I like Spaced. Spaced was great. Yeah.
That's on Hulu,
cool.
So that's nice.
So let me ask you this: you have the Hulu Plus where you pay for it or whatever.
Yeah, I've got the commercial free.
Okay, so it is commercial free.
Yeah,
like completely commercial free.
Except some shows, like Designated Survivor, they have a commercial at the beginning and end.
Okay, but it's not during. It's not that's
no. It's
the
not.
Free one. It's like the same annoying commercial 5 times during the show. Okay.
No.
Because that's when I heard they had Hulu Plus. I heard that you still had commercials, and I guess they have since done away with that or something. So
there's a disclaimer at the beginning that says, due to streaming rights, this is not a part of our commercial free package. There'll be a commercial at the beginning and the end of the episode. So at the end of the episode, you're just like, screw it. But in the beginning, you're stuck.
Yeah,
but it's one commercial.
That's not bad. That's not bad. How much is that a month?
$14 or
it's $14 that much?
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe. I don't know. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to cut the cable, cut the cord as they call it, I guess. Then you have that.
And
Amazon.
it's kind of worth it because there's not a lot of stuff I watch on network. Now, what I found is some shows that I used to catch up the next day on Hulu are no longer on Hulu.
Yeah,
they've taken them off, and I don't know if it's like The Flash. I used to catch up on that the next day, and it's not on there anymore. So I don't know if that's because CBS has their own app now where they're going to force you to watch the commercials. Because if you watch anything on demand that's free, they force you to sit through all the commercials. They shut off the fast forward.
Yeah.
So you can't go through all of those.
That's what the mute button's for me.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so
what do you like about binge watching? Like, what do you think is good about it?
I think you get to like with the Marvel stuff, you get to really watch an extended movie as opposed to take any other superhero movie, really,
Yeah.
where the one we love to hate, Batman, Superman.
Right.
You're cramming all of this into 2.5 hours, which is a long movie.
Yeah.
With Luke Cage and Daredevil, you have 13 hours to tell this. But it's not like, holy crap, I got to sit through a 13-hour movie.
Right.
You're getting to tell more aspects of the story, and you can put more elements of storytelling in there. You can do, like you said earlier, a bit more of a slow burn. You can do more character development as opposed to, boom, characters in the movie, quick backstory, let's run through it and hope the audience catches up or understands it.
Right.
You can really kind of delve into that. And Luke Cage did that because you got backstory on a number of the characters where it kind of revealed bits about them and it just wasn't shoehorned in.
That's cool.
And you didn't have to have a working knowledge of them. Going into a lot of the comic book stuff, you have that. Because people have, the nerds know the stuff and people who aren't nerds don't. This way it gives them a chance to pick up on some of the history of those characters. And again, I think that's the difference between shows written for binge watching versus shows that aren't. But then you get Breaking Bad, not written to be binge watched, but you get to go through that entire arc.
Right.
You get to see some of the character changes, and you don't really get a lot of the annoying MacGuffins that they throw into each episode. But I think that could speak to the strength of writing, too, because if you look at Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, some of those type shows, even Mad Men, it's the strength of writing. It's almost like they thought of it as one long story as opposed to, okay, we got to resolve it in this episode.
Right.
It's written to be a longer tale, and I think it lends itself better.
Yeah,
because of that.
I heard something interesting about this. Remember the show Lost?
Yeah.
Did you watch Lost?
I didn't, and Joey's always trying to get me to watch it.
I never watched it either, but I heard that one of the writers finally admitted on a podcast that they had no freaking idea where that story was going to go, and they would have these writers meetings and just go, okay, what's the craziest, weirdest stuff you can think of to put in the show? And they go, oh, what about a polar bear? Or what about this? Or what about that? And the smog monster, and they're like, okay, let's just put it in there. Well, what are we going to do with it? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. So they really had no idea. So that's like something I think you could only do on a network show where you've got 24 episodes or 10 seasons to tell a story where you can kind of work it out as you go. But when you do something like Luke Cage or Daredevil, you have to have a point A to point Z, and you have to have, the story all that goes in between.
And you've got to move the
have
character.
You have to have the connective tissue and everything else. Yeah.
Who do we want this character to be at the end of these 13 episodes? Where do we want them to be? And you, like you said, you don't get that in network shows.
Correct.
What you looking at?
Sitting
there on your phone.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm just trying to get for later. I'm trying to get all the Twitter feeds and stuff so I don't have to make shit up.
Oh, nice. There we go.
So this is what I hate about binge watching, though, is especially when it's something I like Daredevil.
Yeah.
You finish it in 2 days, and then you're like, shit, I got to wait a year for this show to come back. And there's something to be said for having 24 episodes or a season on television to get through a show, because there's the anticipation of it. There's, when you get to the end, you're so much closer to the next season than if you just watched it all at once.
Yeah.
So I think there's that.
I've done that with book series.
Where you just go crazy.
Yeah,
and just read everything.
You discover a series and you're like, holy cow, there's like 18 books in the series. This is awesome. Then you catch up and you're like, oh, they release one book a year.
Right.
So then it's kind of like, eh. Or with Robert Parker's Spencer series, then it's like, oh, Parker's not writing these anymore.
Yeah.
And I really have no interest in reading anybody else writing his characters. I know that, they're supposed to kind of pick up, but it's just not the same for me. I think it's easier maybe in, I don't know, and I may be wrong. I think it's easier in television for somebody to pick up and write those characters maybe than it is in books, because I think it's more of a collaborative effort in television or film than it is when you're just writing a novel.
Yeah.
Because you have more than one writer typically per episode.
Yeah. So one thing to notice about older shows, like I think that they pay attention to this more now with television, especially with shows like, with networks like AMC, Fox, or FX, I guess, rather, and now Netflix and these guys, they tend to actually have a character arc for the characters. And That's something I don't think you really had in the 70s. Have you ever watched like Columbo episodes back to back?
Yeah.
You know nothing about Columbo. They don't ever tell you anything about his situation, his family, his home life. It's just him in the situation of that week and solving that murder, and that's it. Same thing with like Murder, She Wrote.
And he smoked Claros.
Yeah, exactly. So there's nothing about, it's just it's like a little pocket bottle episode for that week.
It's a pocket universe, really.
Yeah,
You don't find out anything else, except he always would say Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah.
And then later you had that show with Captain Janeway, whatever, Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah, Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah, there was like a season of Mrs. Columbo that went nowhere.
Yeah.
Understandably so. But you're right. You're just kind of thrown into this world and expected to accept these characters. Mm. But again, the writing has changed. I think we as viewers have, we expect more.
Yeah.
Because you have things like HBO series, like you said, AMC, Fox, the bar's been raised. So now network television, in order to keep the ad dollars coming in, has tried to raise that bar. If you look at the silly as it sounds, the level of vulgarity, they've tried to increase that and just tried to make the shows more gritty and realistic.
Oh, yeah.
Than they were before.
I mean, that started back. You could even say it started back before NYPD Blue, but NYPD Blue was the most publicized of that type of vulgarity.
First TV show to use the use of the word shit. Do you know?
No.
It was Chicago Hope.
Chicago Hope, really?
Mark Harmon. A patient died and he goes, shit happens.
Wow. It
was on CBS, and Letterman did this whole thing on it. He goes, so apparently we can say it, I'm told, 3 times before it gets believed. But they left it in because they said it just fit. It was one use, and so it was on there.
Yeah.
Surprising, but Now Mark Harmon's still over at CBS making big bucks.
Yeah, because of that, we get a flabby man ass on NYPD Blue with Dennis
Franz. Oh, yeah.
Oy.
He was on Hill Street Blues for a while.
He was, yeah.
And again, something you don't see now that you saw on episodic television, bringing people back to play different characters.
Right.
Because he did a 3-episode arc playing some narc detective who was crooked, and then like the next season they bring him back as this completely different character.
Right.
And people are just like, oh, okay, it's a different guy.
Right.
You can't do that with modern writing. Just like, wait, isn't that the same dude?
And binge watching, right? Yeah.
Well, and Bochco was involved with Hill Street.
Right.
So if you look at it, then they've got him over on NYPD Blue. Miami Vice, same thing. Yeah. They used a lot of the same writer-producers that they had in Hill Street. And in fact, I was reading this because it's what I do.
Yeah.
Hill and Renko from Hill Street Blues, they were supposed to get a spinoff.
Oh, really?
And they found out how popular they were on Hill Street, so they said, no, we're going to keep them. But they already kind of had this idea for teaming up White Cop, Black Cop.
Yeah.
And then that kind of also developed into Miami Vice.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Yep. That seems to work pretty well. I mean, Lethal Weapon, there's a lot of that.
The type of buddy movie.
Stuff. Which that's back. If you didn't know, there's a TV show now, a Lethal Weapon television show.
Yeah,
I actually like it.
Do you really?
I think it's pretty fun.
I may have to watch that based on that. Because, again, it's on Hulu. But I can't,
So here's the catalyst.
I used to like the Lethal Weapon movies, but now I'm kind of on this, I don't watch anything with Mel Gibson.
Well, this isn't Mel Gibson. So
I know.
I like Damon Wayans. I think Damon Wayans is one of those comedic actors that can actually do drama pretty well. Like I liked him in Last Boy Scout. I thought he had some chops in that. And Shane Black is involved in the television show.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So
because I like his writing.
It's pretty well written.
I like his writing, so I may
he's
have
executive
to give it a
producer,
shot.
and I believe he had something to do with the first couple of scripts. So it's got a feel of a Shane Black type thing. So
better than Iron Man 3, though, I hope.
Yes, definitely better than Iron Man 3.
Okay.
Have you seen the Nice Guys yet? Not Mr. Nice Guy, but The Nice Guys.
No, I where is it? Where can I find it? Is it just out on DVD? Because I've heard it's really good.
It's good, yeah. It's good.
Maybe it's on Amazon. I can rent it.
If you like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, it has kind of that same kind of feel to it, and very jaunty, fun stuff, but also very dark.
That was one of Val Kilmer's best movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we recently showed a lot of Shane Black stuff to my daughter, and she's like, I love this guy. I'm like, yeah. So that's when we started watching the Lethal Weapon series, and she likes it too. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Excellent.
So binge watching's got its plus and minuses. I think it's definitely made television better in some respects. I think you're getting a lot more quality movie-like television now.
I agree, and you're not getting the copycat.
Yeah.
In the 80s, do you remember all the copycat Miami Vice shows?
Mm-hmm.
that came out. There was one I can never remember the name, where the guy's a newspaper reporter.
Yeah,
and the black dude's the photographer, but they're all hip and they're trying to play pop music.
I remember that. Yeah, I forget what that was called.
I can't remember the name. But
then they had the all the Rares of the Lost Ark TV shows. Remember that?
Yes.
They had the Tales of the Gold Monkey, and there was a Bring 'Em Back Alive.
Bring 'Em Back Alive. Yes, that's
the
right.
Other one. Yeah.
They always try to just crib from what's popular.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious that it's kind of pathetic. But you don't get that now. So I think it's like you said, it's raised the level of television for the good.
Yeah.
Where it's not just, well, let's just repeat. Well, we have, although NBC did do that, they had that show about stewardesses in the 60s that was kind of like very Mad Men-esque.
Yeah. The Playboy
so
thing
it still it still happens, but television is definitely better than it has been in
a
years.
long time.
Because there's a lot of drudge out there.
I honestly think there's better. I'd rather watch television shows at this point than most movies, because there's very few movies out there that are super high quality. And what I mean by high quality is I'm not talking about the special effects and everything. I'm saying story-wise and character-wise, there's very few movies that bring that to the table now that are worth going to see in the theater. Now, I saw Hell or High Water recently, which was a very good film, very well written, great character development. It was one of the few movies I've seen recently where when it ended, I was like, I wanted it to continue on. Mm-hmm. I think Richard Linklater does a good deal of that too. He's very good at getting worn characters. Like the second you see him on screen, you can.
Boyhood was amazing.
Have you seen Everybody Wants Some?
The baseball movie?
Yeah,
not yet.
It's great, dude.
Okay.
If you like his style and if you liked Dazed and Confused, it's very much a compliment to that piece.
Only in college, right?
Yeah, but it's just not. There's no real story to be told, but you love these characters, and that was honestly the last movie that I saw where I was like, oh wait, it's over? Like no, what happened? What happens next?
And I think part of that you have to focus on the character because on television because you don't have the special effects.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing. It's kind of like when Lucas didn't have the power or the technology to make his vision. You had a better Star Wars film.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
for sure.
In television, you're forced to focus on the characters and come up with good stories.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you just had people who grew up watching television who had these stories they wanted to tell, and they've raised the bar. So it's maybe the new golden age of television.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been there for a while, at least since AMC and FX with The Shield and stuff. I think that kind of started.
Shield was great.
Very, very good
also
quality
on Hulu.
Television show. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Horrible ending.
Yes, yeah. Most of them do. I mean, most shows don't really end very well. There's not.
It's really hard to. How do you capture that?
Yeah.
How do you take something that was so good? How do you make a satisfactory ending to it? It's damn near impossible.
It is because it's worse than a movie because you've got these characters that you come to know and love or know and hate, and now you have to come up with a definitive ending, and this is it.
Yeah.
And I think Sopranos did. What?
They didn't have a definitive
No,
ending.
they didn't. It just kind of ended, and you're like, what the fuck? It's like, where does this go now? You could look at it, and that was one of those things. I actually kind of liked it because it did start discussions.
Yeah.
And with intelligent people, you were actually able to have a discussion. With people who were not so intelligent, they're like, fuck that show. It's bullshit, and blah. They just got all upset. But, that's...
When I first saw it, I was kind of like, man, that's kind of... It's unsatisfying. I'm lacking something. But as I look back at that last scene, mm-hmm. the way Tony was looking at everything, mm-hmm. and you as a viewer, you kind of got built in, man, they're probably going to kill Tony. They're probably going to kill Tony. Yeah. So everything that happens, you're like, oh, is that it? Is that it? Is that?
Yeah.
So you're kind of on edge and paranoid about what's going to happen to Tony. And then you realize, welcome to Tony's world.
Right.
This is exactly what Tony's doing his whole life. Yeah. It was like, that's kind of cool that they could put me in those shoes.
Right.
And I could relate to what the character was going through.
Yeah.
So I thought that was clever.
Pretty hard to do. I mean, there's certain movies that I think you really get that sense. I just caught Goodfellas on cable. Mm-hmm. It was on HBO when I was traveling. I hadn't seen that movie in so long, and I missed the first couple scenes, but I know the movie back and forth. I've seen it a bunch of times. And one of the things I really liked about that movie was that it was able to put you in that character's shoes throughout the movie. I mean, you really felt like at parts of it, you felt what Ray Liotta was feeling.
Yeah.
Especially when he gets into the drugs and starts to get paranoid, and the way it was shot, the quick cuts and the zoom ins and the eyes and everything else that went along with it. You really got a sense of, holy shit, this is, you feel like what this guy's feeling. You feel totally at ease while you're watching all those sequences.
Yeah, the movie it's hectic.
Yeah. And that's good filmmaking, and that's good storytelling, and
sometimes
get enough of that.
It was an instance of where it was done well, and aided the story. Sometimes it's just lazy filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of TV shows, like most of your CSIs, it's just crappy filmmaking.
Yeah, CSI I think started out as a good concept, but it started to rely too heavily on special effects.
Yeah,
and you can see my wife she loved that show. She has like at least the first 6 seasons on DVD. And when you watch the extras, like originally when you watch the extras for the first couple of seasons, it's all about, we're trying to make it as realistic as possible.
Right.
And yes, we're fudging some of this stuff, but we're trying to tell a good story. And we've got all these great producers and writers that are helping us tell these great stories. Then you get to season 3 or 4, it's like, we're just coming up with all this new technology to push the story forward, and we're doing all these crazy things, but it's all about, having the newest tech and making the newest tech, and people are trying to come to
filler.
us. Yeah, and it's like, agencies are trying to come to us to find out where we can get this tech, and we just made it up, and it's like, okay, so now you're losing the story, and you're just getting into lazy writing.
Just sexy.
Yeah, it's just lazy writing to get around things instead of, going the right way.
Did you know Rob Zombie directed an episode of CSI? Have we had this conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
About how he didn't like Russo.
Well, he said that working with Caruso was a horrible experience, and he's got this shot set up. So he's like, okay, Caruso pulls up in the car, gets out, and they're like, yeah, Mr. Caruso doesn't really drive. It's like,
so stupid.
Okay, so we'll have the car there, and Caruso gets out of the car. I'm like, Mr. Caruso really doesn't get out of cars. And he's like, so basically, what does he do? And the whole thing's that medium shot.
Yep, he walks in.
With him whipping the glasses off. And he goes, that's all the guy does.
Right.
And he said it was a frustrating, horrible experience working with him.
Yeah.
Because of that, where he just wants the hero shot.
Right. That's, yeah. That show got so long in the tooth. All those shows did. I mean, New York, I thought New York it was good that they tried to give New York a gritty feel. That lasted all of half a season. And then it went from being everything's gray and dark and moody to, hey, everything's bright and shiny.
Everything looks like everything, every other CBS show.
Now it looked like, Vegas, and it was like a combination of Vegas and Miami instead of what it was. It didn't.
I think I watched some of New York.
Yeah.
Because Celia Ward was on there.
Yeah, and I liked Sinise too, but I mean,
and then after she left, it was like
they tried to have each different show had to try to have their identity, and New York just didn't have an identity. It just became like everything else. It just wasted.
There's definitely a CBS model.
Yeah, there is,
and it's successful. But if you look at the demographic, not really that prime advertiser demographic.
Right. Yeah,
which is kind of where we are.
Right.
So. Anyway, we've wrapped up another 30 minutes of your time.
Yes, we have.
30, something like that. So, based on the research you did earlier, where would they be able to find us if they wanted to question or comment? Say there's a guy out there named Brian McGee who wants to leave a comment for us. Where could he do that?
Well, he could tweet us over at love2hatepod, so love2hatepod. He could email us at lovetohatepodcast@gmail, and this is with a regular TO, so lovetohatepodcast@gmail. And if you want to watch us, you can go over to YouTube and listen/watch it there. There's really no video to speak of, but it is there if you want to watch it on YouTube. So put it on in the background while you're working or whatever. You can also go to iTunes and Spreaker. So there's lots of ways you can ingest the show, for sure.
Excellent. Kids, thanks for joining us for another week. We'll talk to you later.